The majority of our residents in Oakland are tenants, and there is a severe shortage of safe, affordable housing in our city. And that shortage has led to an exponential rise in the rental rates in Oakland. And the city has taken steps to try to address the situation, enacting laws. There's the Just Cause for Eviction Ordinance, Rent Control Ordinance, and the Tenant Protection Ordinance, which makes explicit that many common forms of landlord harassment are illegal and actionable. What's so incredibly challenging about the affordability crisis is that tenants have so few options. They feel, as you say, trapped. You're living in a situation where you have substandard conditions in your home, your landlord is subjecting you to harassment, but you don't have the ability to pack up and move to another unit. You can't give up your rent-controlled unit. And landlords know that. Unscrupulous landlords know that, and they take advantage of it and they exploit it. And they know that if they're accepting rent from a monolingual Spanish speaker or a disabled elderly person, it's unlikely that that person is going to be able to enforce their rights. They're probably incredibly scared at the prospect of suing their landlord. And so we are lucky at Centro to benefit from 50 years of experience being rooted in this community, being trusted by this community. We offer weekly walk-in clinics, and we offer comprehensive wraparound legal services. But that's our job, is to just inform tenants of their rights, make it clear that there are laws in Oakland that protect them, and that we can help as much as we can to make those rights meaningful. What inspires me about this work is our clients. They face incredible challenges, and when we're working with them, they're often in crisis, and what's at risk is their home.
We found it incredibly important to be able to work with the city attorney's office over the years. There's a real synergy that comes from that partnership. Centro Legal and other community-based organizations, we bring real trust with the community. We bring years of expertise and experience working with low-income and communities of color. And at the same time, we're limited in our resources, in our funding, in our capacity. And the city brings that as well as its own unique and special roles. When the city brings a lawsuit or is involved in a lawsuit, they have the unique role of representing the entire city, not just individual tenants. That's important because many of our tenants are scared. They don't want to openly confront their landlords, and the city can seek relief for those tenants as well. The city also has a special focus on injunctive relief, and that means they can ask the court to order policy changes, such as hiring property management or immediately fixing substandard conditions, and they're often able to get that relief in cases. So we find that critically important as well. The other thing I'd say is that when the city files a lawsuit or is involved in the lawsuit, the community notices. It's really important to communicate to the media, to landlords, to tenants, that tenant rights will be enforced by the city and by their nonprofit partners. Another case we worked in partnership with the city was for a 30-unit property in the Fruitvale, and it was some of the most egregious housing conditions I've seen. There was unaddressed bed bugs, mold, fire safety hazards. There actually ended up being a fire at the building. And what was incredible about working with the city is they immediately got code enforcement out, and they went straight into court to seek a preliminary injunction. And that's asking the court to order the landlord to make immediate repairs to the most egregious conditions, such as providing heaters for the tenants in the middle of winter.
We represented a tenant named Salvador Sotelo, a longtime Oakland resident who was experiencing years of harassment and substandard housing conditions. We worked with the tenant, Mr. Sotelo, for years at Centro, trying less intensive methods, asserting Salvador's rights in all the ways that we could, short of an affirmative lawsuit. The landlord would come to the home unannounced, barge in, and berate and threaten and just verbally harass the tenants in an effort to get them to leave. They were long-time rent-controlled tenants, and if the landlord could make life as miserable as possible, then it increased the likelihood that the tenants would leave. That it was only when we escalated the situation, only when we brought a lawsuit partnering with the city of Oakland, that the harassment stopped.
And the settlement provided substantial compensation for Mr. Sotelo and for the city, But probably the most important was we're able to secure really important injunctive relief and policy changes. So in that case, the landlord had to agree to hire a property manager so they won't be directly interacting with or harassing the tenants. They also agreed to provide notice to the city before moving forward with any eviction action, and that ensures that these tenants won't get displaced. So that was a really incredible victory. So for any tenants who are facing violations of the law, who are desperate, who are worried about displacement, I'd say reach out to your local nonprofit organization. So that can be Centro Legal de la Raza, it can be the Eviction Defense Center, East Bay Community Law Center. There's a number of organizations that provide assistance to tenants through weekly clinics, through consults. And then depending on the nature of your case, it might be that a lawsuit is needed. And in that situation, we'll reach out to our partners at the city attorney's office and see what we can do to protect your rights.
I meet with tenants on a weekly basis who have potential lawsuits against their landlords, and tenants for whom the only remedy is to bring an affirmative suit. And because of our capacity constraints and our resource constraints, and I know that City of Oakland Attorney's Office is in the same position, because of limited resources, you can only take a fraction of the cases that you learn about.
I think one of the most important things to bear in mind is that most tenants are not going to be represented by an attorney in an affirmative lawsuit. Many tenants face real barriers to being able to confront or openly confront their landlord. Those can be language capacity issues, it can be mobility issues, it can be the fear of immigration-related threats. For all those reasons, it's really critical that we make the litigation we are able to bring, that we make it count. And by partnering with the city attorney's office, we're able to bring in the media, where the community notices when the city attorney is involved, and the community notices when affirmative lawsuits are successful. And that's able not only to bring great relief for those tenants and for those buildings, but it sends a stronger message that changes the overall playing field, and that's critically important.
Tenants have the ability to enforce their rights, and that the city stands with them and stands behind them in bringing these suits.
The Oakland City Attorney's Office is committed to enforcing the right of Oakland tenants to safe, healthy, and dignified housing. To report harassment to the City Attorney's Office, please contact the Neighborhood Law Corps. For a range of housing services and referrals, please call or visit the City of Oakland Housing Resource Center. And for legal advice or representation, please contact a local nonprofit organization or private attorney. Together, we can fight for housing justice in Oakland.